This is how I made dirt cheap Sortimo racks. They hold 8 medium Harbor Freight part organizers each. Plywood is really expensive these days, so the core of the idea is to start with a used discarded nightstand, or something similar. I was lucky enough to have access to this pile of discarded dormitory furniture, but you'll probably have similar luck searching on Facebook Marketplace or Craigslist, something similar like that. The second way I saved money was by using these 1x2 furring strips for the rails. This was annoying in 2 ways. One, anyone who's ever been to the Home Depot lumberyard knows how hard it is to find wood that's reasonably straight, doesn't have too many knots, and isn't split straight down the middle. And, because they're actually 3/4 inch by 1.5 inch, I needed to rip them to size. This saw doesn't have a zero clearance insert, so I paid mine to keep the thinner strip to the left of the blade. It's still kind of a sketchy and dangerous cut, but that's not actually the last one you'll see today. Next I cut the strips down to size, and eventually I started adding bevel cuts to the end. I know, I'm using the miter lock to cut a bevel, but technically it is a bevel because I'm cutting it along the thickness of the material and not the width. After I finished prepping the rails, it was time to start on the nightstand. First I needed to remove the drawer slides. Well, actually, first I needed to get rid of the drawers and everything inside of them. I suppose if you want to save even more money, you could probably process the drawers and turn them into the rails, but I'd rather save some time and spend a few dollars on furring strips. Once I had the drawer slides out, I took some measurements, created a jig, and started nailing the rails down. I wanted to add some casters to these racks. My thought was I could slide them in and out underneath my workbench and rest the parts organizers on top when looking for fasteners and hardware. These casters actually ended up being the most expensive part of the build, and these screws that came with them were just terrible. They snapped off with the slightest bit of torque. A real pain in the butt. So back to those bevel cuts. If you don't add bevel cuts, the case can get hung up on the rails just like this. And for the first few I attached, I forgot to do this. So I'm going to go back and fix this with the multi-tool. After some cleanup with a knife, I had to go back and re-nail one of these rails. In hindsight, I probably should have used glue along with brad nails, but we live and learn. Now I had just enough space for another parts organizer if I remove the top supports. Here's where the second sketchy cut of the day comes. And here's hoping I learn how to stop doing sketchy cuts before I lose a finger. Also, let it be known, I use my tools and don't baby them. Though the battery hammer move might be bordering on abusing tools over using them. Since the top of the rack just mainly sits there and supports any parts organizers I decide to place on top, I decided to use some hot glue to secure it. It hasn't come loose yet, but if it ever does, I'll probably swap this out for epoxy. And there we have it. We have a dirt cheap parts organizer rack with enough room to store my ever-important Legos. I'm always trying to learn and improve, and honestly, I'd probably do things differently next time. So hop in the comments and let me know what you think. If you enjoyed this, check out some of my other content. I've mostly been doing shorts lately, like this Taser Pikachu, or maybe this Ryobi pizza cutter. Take a look and let me know what you think.